29-year-old Antonia Egabara of Queens, New York City, has been charged with attempted murder after shoving an innocent woman towards the tracks as the train was entering Times Square station. 42-year-old Lenny Javier was minding her own business on the way to work when Antonia unexpectedly got up from a bench and shoved her into an oncoming train. She was knocked so hard that she could be seen coming off as the train hurtles into the station, but luckily it had just passed by and she struck the side of the carriage rather than falling onto the tracks. Antonia then fled the platform. Lenny broke her arm in 3 places, smashed her nose and fractured her chin. She also suffered cuts and bruising all over her body. She was in a lot of pain and her face was swollen. She was transported to the Mount Sinai Hospital where she is recovering after surgery. Officers arrested Antonia the following day while inside the subway system. She reportedly suffers from schizophrenia and has been arrested at least 7 times before, with the 3 most recent incidents involving her kicking or biting other women on public transport. She was previously released without bail following an incident on the 5th of July where she allegedly bashed a 40-year-old woman, giving her a black eye and knocking out a tooth. Antonia is held in custody on a $100,000 bond. Antonia's family are pleading for a mental evaluation, saying that she needs real treatment and not a jail cell. A UK man has been sentenced to 11 years in prison after throwing acid in his ex-girlfriend's face, disfiguring her and blinding her in one eye weeks after she ended their relationship. 25-year-old Milad Roof and 24-year-old Rim Alawi first met in a medical school. They lived together for a brief period of time in a flat located in Newport Road in Cardiff. Rim was unhappy and ended their relationship in April of 2021. She moved out and lived at Forstein Gardens in Brighton. Over the following weeks, Milad started planning for the vicious attack on the junior doctor for dumping him. The relatively thin Caucasian man wore a costume disguising himself as a large black woman. Just after 4 p.m. on the 20th of May 2021, he showed up at Rim's house wearing a heavily padded fat suit, sunglasses and a clear visor. Rim opened the door and he handed her a threatening note. As she bent down to read it, he threw sulfuric acid in her face and then fled the scene as she suffered horrific searing pain. The acid was so concentrated, it melted the paint on the door. The authorities were alerted and Rim was taken to the local hospital where she underwent surgery. Witnesses described seeing the suspect as a black woman wearing a black jacket and a covert visor. One neighbour heard a really bad scream before seeing the young woman being led out of the property with a blanket over her head. Another neighbour described seeing a plastic box on the road outside the property after the attack, with a note printed inside it that said acid attack kit. Officers tracked Milad down by viewing extensive footage from Brighton CCTV cameras to trace the suspect's movements. He was last seen discarding and changing disguises at various locations across the seaside town. Following a search of Milad's flat, officers found a long handwritten shopping list detailing his disguises. These matched the equipment and clothing seen by the suspect at the time of the attack. He was arrested and questioned by the investigators on the 30th of May. Milad refused to answer a lot of questions, simply saying no comment and concocted lies. He also handed a prepared statement in which he wrote, "I totally deny any involvement in this horrific offence." Later at his plea hearing in court in August of 2021, he admitted to causing grievous bodily harm and using a corrosive fluid with intent to burn, maim, disfigure or disable. In a victim statement, Rim said the attack blinded her in the right eye and caused severe damage to her eyelids and the skin on her face, neck, chest and arm. She's unable to fully move her neck or close her eyelids. She said she has undergone 5 painful life appearance-altering surgeries, with more to come. She said she no longer lives a normal life. She lives in constant physical and psychological pain, and said that the attack robbed her of her years as a young adult and her career. During his sentencing on the 7th of October 2021, Judge Christine Lang said she believed the attack was motivated by simple jealousy and anger at being rejected. She said, "I don't think you've shown any real remorse. You lied repeatedly in an interview to avoid the consequences. You thought about what you wanted to do and planned it over a period of some weeks." He was sentenced to 11 years in prison.
Tell me about throwing acid in his face. How so?
Well, explain that to me.
It's a horrific incident. I don't know. What do you mean tell it?
Well, so tell me about the 20th of May.
As in where I was?
Yeah.
I was in London.
No.
From what I can remember, I was in London and I was in Hyde Park, sort of walking. I just did a lap of Hyde Park, and then went home.
The day that you've described in London, how can you be sure we're talking about Thursday, the 20th of May? Could you be mistaken? Could that, the day you've described going to Hyde Park, could that be the Friday or the Wednesday? Tell me how you're sure it's the 20th.
Just because, obviously, so beforehand, I'd check the day, check what day it is, be like, this is, because that was the day that I was supposed to meet my friend.
Which friend was this?
The girl that I'm sort of seeing.
Okay, just remind me of her name.
It's, I think.
Right. Okay.
So the plan was to see her on this day. The previous days, I still just wanted to stay with the family, stay at home.
That was the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Over this time period, you were in London, and as I've said, your alibi is far from concrete because there's not a lot of things we can check about it. And then this person walking around who looks a lot like you. What can you tell me about that?
No comment.
These two exhibits I'm going to show you are RH04A and B. So this is what it's like now, following the attack. So that's her in hospital. So she's got quite significant burns to her face, and obviously you can see she's got a dressing around her neck. What can you tell me about that?
No comment.
Did you do that?
No comment.
Why
did you do that?
No comment.
There's one question about the images that are in front of you on the floor. How you should be able to answer this. How does it make you feel when you look and you see the difference between these two top pictures and that bottom one? Can you tell me how it makes you feel?
No comment.
Given that you spent if this goes to court, a jury will watch this interview and a jury will watch what you have to say about how you feel about seeing injured in this way, horrifically injured in this way. So I'm going to ask you one more time, how do you feel when you see these images of, as a person to person, how do you feel?
No comment.